You're good.
That's good. Okay, we are live in the gardens, in the test gardens for Planted Places. And we are starting a few minutes late, so apologize for people that were sitting there on sidelines waiting for us. We're pulling everything together for you because we got a lot to walk through and talk to you guys about. So before we get started, I just want to say my name's Christy Ross, and I think I've met a lot of you, talked with a lot of you, either email or virtually or even on the phone, but I'm so glad you guys are here. So glad you've joined the membership and that you are on this journey with us. This is something we want to start, so every Friday, 10:30, we're going to go live in the garden. Sometimes we might go for a long time, and sometimes it might just be a quick check-in. This time, because it's really I guess it's our second time that we're doing a big kind of in the garden. We're probably going to be here about 20-30 minutes right now, and I'll try not to go more than 30 minutes. I know people are busy, but I want to cover a lot of questions. A lot of comments have been posting in our private community, and I want to make sure we address those. Oftentimes I get emails too, direct emails, so I want to make sure to touch upon all that, because chances are, if one of you have the question, probably all of you have the question, or a big majority of you guys have that question. So also another thing, make sure, and I'll make sure it's posted in the community, we did create a winter series that really talked about what you grow in the winter and how you grow. And then we talked about an immunity tea, which is so important right now. And I really encourage you guys, if you haven't seen that, to watch parts of it, especially the how you grow in the winter, for people that are not in kind of like the Northern California. That's obviously where we're located, so what you're seeing is what things look like in Northern California. But if you're in another climate, you definitely want to see that second video series, because that's where we talk about grow lights. We get kind of specific on that. And then you guys post, DM, post us in the community if you want me to do a live just on that. We can do that as well. Okay, so you guys tell us what you want for sure. Okay, we put that together for you, but you tell us. And one thing also I have to encourage you to see is we had a cooking class last night. We actually had a yoga class in the morning, and then we had a cooking class last night just for members. We did open it up a little bit for people that are interested in becoming members, because right now is an open cart week, and so we wanted to encourage them to come too. But the cooking class was awesome. We made a tabbouleh salad. We had tons of parsley in there. We put tons of mint. As you guys know, you had mint this week. Last week we sent you a new box. You got mint. We put a lot of mint in that thing, and then we put some lemon balm on top. But it was delicious. So anyway, and I highly encourage that. The lemon balm was good because we had a lot of lemon juice in there, and so the lemon balm kind of helped bring that out as well. So anyways, very exciting, and that was with hemp, and really good blood builder and immunity boosting. So very good. We're going to be giving you guys, if you're a planted box, we're going to be giving you guys parsley very soon to start growing. Parsley is an amazing cleansing herb. So really important to be growing that. Planted wall people, you guys have been growing that for a while. So, and it's one of those herbs that just does so well. Because here is one. Whoa! I'm knocking things down. This thing's huge. This has been growing for since September. I planted it in September, and I am constantly harvesting this thing. But you can just see parsley does really well. Very happy. Loves our soil. Loves our soil. Okay, let's pop into this, and I'm excited too because I have Mallory with me today. She's holding the phone for me right now, but we're going to be switching off because Mallory helps with the test garden. She oversees a lot of our seedlings and all of the content and the research that goes on. Mallory's a big person behind all that, so you guys get to see her, and she's going to talk about some stuff as well. So first thing I'm going to talk about is generally this. Let's talk right now about watering, because you guys have a lot of questions about that. We might want to come a little close, but the funny thing about watering is you're really the only one who's going to be able to know if you need to water, and that is because you have to fill it. So I wanted to show, this is a mustard that I had planted, and you can see this is dry. This is pretty dry. It's not bone dry, but if I put my finger in here, it feels. It's a little damp. I'm about probably an inch down, an inch and a half down. It's actually a little damp down there, so it's not bone dry, but because it's kind of dry up on top here, it's a newer seedling, so the roots aren't really deep. I'm gonna water it. Okay, that's important. I don't have to. It's healthy because it's still kind of it's a little damp down below, pretty deep. But again, you got to think about the maturity of the plant. And especially these seedlings, when they're young, they don't have really established root systems. So if it's dry on top, it needs water, because the chances are the roots aren't getting that. So that is really the simplest way to do. Now in the winter, it's colder, right? And so soil is not drying out. If it was summer and it was 80, 90 degrees, you probably want to be watering that thing daily. But when it's in the winter, right now, you guys, I'm literally watering these probably twice a week, maybe 3 times. We had a few days, Monday, Tuesday this week, pretty sunny days, and so 3 times this week. But really 2 times a week. And in the dead of winter, maybe even just 1 time a week. I mean, that just is kind of giving you an idea of what's going on. They're not growing as fast. They're not taking up as much nutrients or water at this time of year either. So things are just slow. So you got to make sure you do not want to overwater. That's probably the biggest thing that we're seeing right now. If anybody's kind of getting, like I know we had 1 or 2 people that had oregano that didn't make it. And our assessment was probably root rot. And root rot really comes from overwatering. So remember, especially if you're in a cooler climate, guys, you do not want to be watering more than twice a week, if that. If you're in Arizona, we got a bunch of people that in Arizona right now, like Tucson, Phoenix, Southern California. You guys are warmer, you're cold at night, but you are warmer during the day. So chances are you might have to water a little bit more than what I'm saying. So the best thing to do is you just get your finger and you just want to see what's going on. Other thing, like here's my oregano. This thing is really wet.
You can even just tell by the color.
You can just see the difference, guys? Yes. I am not watering this thing. I need to lay off this thing. Yeah. Because this is the thing. Herbs want to dry out before you water them, okay? That is very important. So your oregano, your sage, parsley, those, they really want to dry. You want that sort of kind of, not bone dry, but you want it to kind of dry out, and then you water it again. With your arugulas, your bok choys, you kind of want to keep it damp. Like you don't want it to completely dry out. Now, this is something interesting with the bok choy. And look at this, by the way. This is very exciting. This bok choy is so happy. And you can see all this new growth in there. Like he's just coming out. I can start harvesting this. I have enough. And we'll talk about harvesting in a second. But what's really nice about this, let me see here. Yeah, is like, do you see how it's really fleshy? See how thick that is? Yeah. That's kind of like, if anybody does succulents, I mean, that retains a lot of water in there. It's like, that's one reason why you don't water succulents a lot, is because they hold a lot of water in their leaves. Bok choy is kind of like that too. So it's a very forgiving plant. So I will say, Judy might even be watching this. My mother-in-law is down in Tucson, and she's doing this. And it was so funny. I saw the plant over the holidays, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was so dry. The soil was so dry. And how I knew was, this bok choy was just, the leaf was just kind of, it looked very limp. And I was like, oh, and she's like, oh, look, it looks great. And I'm like, it does look great, but it's a little limp. And then I looked at the soil and it's bone dry. So that is, if you see kind of some wilting going on, but bok choy is forgiving. You water it and poof, comes back up. Swiss chard's another one that's like that too. Okay, so that's kind of watering. That kind of tells you about that. I wanted to also talk about planting and harvesting really quick. Really important, guys, especially planted wall people. Remember, this soil is super powerful soil. It has all sorts of things in it, and I'm going to say probably the 3 most important things to know about it is it has worm castings, okay? And worm castings, in fact, Mallory, what is the amazing stat that you told me? I mean, I don't want to say the wrong number, but it's got 40?
It's got 60 different elements of trace nutrients. So like plants absorb nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium, and it actually goes up to like 60 or 80 different levels of macronutrients that we actually call in the soil, and worm castings delivers on 60 of those different
60 out of 80 of the nutrients.
And we're absorbing that directly once we eat the plant, and it's absorbing all that nutrients, and then we get that nutrients as well. So it's wonderful.
This is why you're here, Mallory. Because I was going to say 40. I'm like, I think it's higher. And I don't want to over-deliver. I want to under-deliver and then over-deliver with the expectations. So yeah, that's huge, you guys. So worm castings in here. So here's what's interesting. Sometimes people find worms that appear in the soil. And they ask me, is that bad? That is the best thing you can have, is a worm deep down in there doing the work. Because guess what? He's creating live worm castings. Worm castings is worm poop. He's creating that.
Yep.
So our soil has dried worm castings in it. But if you can get the real deal, like faster in terms of absorption of that worm cast. I remember a gardener, a kind of a professional organic gardener that I was working with early on when we were starting this business. He had said the worm castings in the soil it's kind of like dried ice cream. We have dried ice cream. It's dry, it's dried, so you have to. So it's in terms of absorbing it and making it kind of come to the real. Like there's a little bit extra work. Yeah. So real ice cream, dried ice cream, real worm castings, dried worm castings, still the same thing. It's just dry. Yeah. Okay. So we've got that. Also, we have biochar, and the reason I want to talk about that, and I know I talk about soil a lot, but that is the essence of what we're doing. The biochar gives it a lot of surface area. Okay, that's really important for the roots. There's a lot of air pockets in there for the air to flow, for the micronutrients, all those microbes to get in there and have a party, I like to say. But it gives it, so even though you're working with a smaller space, in a raised bed, it kind of is in a way replicating a raised bed. Totally. And it lasts a very long time. So that is very important. We give you fertilizer mixes and things like that, everything organic, so that it's reboosting it and recharging it, kind of like a battery. Totally. So you don't need to change out your soil. And that's important for planted wall. If you've had that soil for a whole year, then that's a little bit different, and you want to start doing some reconditioning. And we'll do a live on that. We'll actually do a real deep dive on that, because I think that's justifies its own lesson. But that's for planted box people. Just this soil is going to last a long time. Okay, and then I wanted to show, because some of the times, right now, for the most part, we're giving you one seedling with one grow pot. But, and certainly for planted wall, this is a planted wall pot, you're always getting one plant per pot. But with these grow pots, because you get more soil than is in this planted wall, you actually can double up. And so I haven't finished planting it yet, but I wanted to show you this time around. You could be doing a mint with a viola. And so this one, you want to just kind of like lightly, do this to kind of loosen some of the roots so that they're kind of, and then you just I've put the soil at the bottom there. I'm going to place that next to this guy, and then I'm just going to put some soil around it, just fill it up. It's always good when you're planting, and that's okay that I have a little leaf in there, because it'll break down. That's organic. It'll break down and provide some nutrients. So anyways, we go in here, and I'm just kind of filling it, and you'll see I want to fill this up. I don't want to fill it all the way. I want to give maybe half an inch or so, because when I water it, that way the water can fill up, just kind of like in a regular pot. Totally. So that's important to do. So anyway, so we just kind of like fill that up. And I want to make sure that's a little loose there. Yeah. It makes it so that when you water, the water will pool up at the top and then drain through, and then you watered it with the perfect amount of water, not giving it too much and stuff like that. So Exactly. Thank you for that, Mallory. Absolutely right. Because this, remember, guys, and that's a good point she just said too, it is going to drain out. It's going to drain out. So, these are outside, but if you do have some of these inside, you want to have a plate, something underneath it to catch that water. Exactly. Yeah. Or bring it outside, water it. It's drained, and bring it back. You can do that as well. Okay, so that's that piece. I want to talk a little bit about harvesting, and then we'll talk about microseeds. And if there's any questions coming through on the screen, we can answer those too. But and multi-seeding. Okay, so harvesting. I've got a lot of different kinds of plants here, because planted wall they have a lot of different things, and planted box. Over time, you're going to start getting all this stuff too. So let's talk. This is just like. Mallory and I were dying earlier when we saw this. I just love this. So this one, now if you were planted wall, you would not put 2 lettuce seedlings in there, because it would be too much, and you would have very small plants. The roots would just be competing for space with each other in that pot. Exactly. But again, with this larger pot, you can do that. And by the way, I just have to say this, because this is really exciting. We're actually starting to have customers do this. One thing that we are doing is with the planted box, we have architected it such that these grow pots fit into the pots that are on the planted wall. So if you want to, as we like to say, grow up, if you want to move into the wall over time, you can do that, because these fit in there. And then what's cool is you can actually grow even more. So because it's got more soil in it. So that's a big thing. And any planted wall people, if you have questions about that and you want to swap out with these, we can talk to you about that, because that might be something you want to do. But anyways, this is very cool, because if you notice this is a romaine. I have been harvesting it a lot, right? It's very thick. Look at that thing. This has been in here, because it is the winter, it's been in here longer than it normally would, but it's not bolting. It's forming a really nice head
of lettuce.
Isn't that a head of lettuce? Really nice. And because it's winter, it is growing slower. If this was the summer, I would have probably planted this thing in June. I would have harvested, and then I would have gotten rid of that probably
By the end of June.
Yeah, end of June, probably, yeah, like mid-July. Yeah, and, but this thing, it lasts longer just because it's winter. So, so I can cut this whole thing off and have a head of lettuce, or I can just keep harvesting. And when you harvest, you're just taking the outer leaves. And oftentimes, like you can see this one. I don't know if you can tell the difference, but like, see, it's kind of getting a little limpier. It's the color's changing. What's happening is the plant is kind of, oh, I'm done with that one. I'm putting my energy into new growth now. So you actually are doing it a favor. You do not, I've seen this question a lot. You don't want to just keep the leaves there and not harvest them, because it's actually taking energy away from the new growth. Okay, that's really important. So when you harvest, you want to know the right time to harvest, and you want to know how to harvest. So here's an arugula. Okay. Now, I've got in here, we're going to talk about multi-seed, but see, in here, there's 2 different seedlings. How do you know that? You got 2 little stems there, okay? 2 seedlings of, this has been over-harvested. And the reason why is my boys love arugula. They love arugula. And they come out all the time. And they're constantly taking leaves for, like, every possible thing. Their egg sandwiches, they make pizzas, they put it on there, they put it on everything. And so I'm always telling them, guys, go around. I have lots of arugula. Go to the wall, grab arugula. But no, they always go to the same plant. So you don't want that happening, because these are kind of like little solar panels. And Mallory, I want you to jump in on this. But it needs the greenery for photosynthesis so that it can keep regenerating more leaves.
Correct.
Is that
Yep.
okay?
That's exactly it. The leaves are doing a lot of work throughout the day. So at nighttime and in the early morning is when the roots are really growing and focusing on that. And during the day, the leaves are going through photosynthesis and gaining energy. So for example, like this Bok Choy, it's a perfect time to harvest 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 leaves. And then I would recommend leaving at least 2 to 3 leaves so that these leaves can just absorb all that photosynthesis possible.
Yes.
And create more foliage to grow. And if you were to take all of it away, those leaves would not be catching photosynthesis and it would not grow.
Very good point. And I think that's the magic number, like 2 to 3 leaves. Keep 2 to 3 leaves.
Yep.
It depends on the size. These are pretty big, right?
Yeah.
So you probably
Exactly.
you can do that in
Totally.
just 2. But and like this. So then I'm trying to think here, like mustard. I'm still kind of waiting for this to grow. You can tell I've kind of taken 1 there, but I'm kind of waiting for this to grow a little bit. But I probably could take 2 of them.
Yeah, you could take a couple of leaves, but it depends. Like she's saying, this here is just such a wide leaf, and this is a pretty wide leaf as well. But when you come here to this arugula, if I were to harvest any more, these little tiny leaves are not going to be grabbing much sunlight. So I would definitely wait and give this a chance to at least gain some more surface area there.
Exactly. Yes. And I wanted to show. Okay, so I also wanted to show. Here's an arugula. This is right on beat with what you guys planted box. We're underneath a grape vine, and it's dropping leaves on me. Earlier I had one on my head. Okay, but this is probably about this, on beat with where your arugula probably is. And I'm gonna, in a minute, we're gonna switch the phone. I'm gonna have Mallory kind of show you how to thin that out. And what do we mean by thinning out? Here, and it's interesting. You can do different things. You can have one pot and not thin it out, and you would be having shorter leaves that you would just kind of be grabbing a little bit here and there, and just kind of like almost like
baby leaves almost.
Exactly, baby greens, exactly. Or you could wait and really just go down to 1 seedling. Now this guy has been around. This is one from the wall. This guy's been around a long time. How do we know that? Like, look at this. This is its original stem, and it's so just long. Like, it went on forever. I've been harvesting this thing for a very long time. Arugula lasts for a long time, but what happens is these leaves, they get really big. I need to take this out now at this point. But what happens with arugula is it does last for a while, but it starts getting more bitter. Yeah. So and you just have to test. Like if you notice, like, okay, it's now too bitter, like you need to pull that out and go with a new one. But they do last for a while, and we don't have to worry about this time of year. They tend to bolt very quickly, arugula, which means go to seed. But arugula is one of those cool plants that the minute you see it doing that, you pinch it. So you can see, like here, these little, where there's these little kind of calluses or little scars. This was where it was trying to
create a flower, pretty
exactly.
much.
And I snipped it, and then what happens? It creates another offshoot. So like right now, it's so funny because in the summer this happens all the time, and here we are in winter, and it's like nope, there's no sign of it bolting, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I'm probably going to cut this out, take it off. But let's switch the camera because I'm going to have you talk about
the thinning,
and stuff. Yeah. Okay. There's Mallory, guys. Yes.
Okay, hello everybody. Thinning arugula is really important, like she said, because it helps to produce larger leaves, and when you're putting it into a salad or a dish or something, you're able to have more of it. So I recommend thinning your arugula down to where they have 3 to 4 of these stems coming out of the soil, and I'll show you what that means when they're smaller. If you look down here at the base of the plant, there are a ton of these little tiny stems coming up from the soil. And I actually want to thin that out, and by thinning, I mean going down to the very base of one of these little stems here, and just simply, can you see that?
Yes.
Just simply go right down to the base of the soil and yank it right out.
Now, could we use, I know everybody, oops, I got my thumb in the way there. We did give people clippers. Could you use clippers too? You could do either one?
Could do clippers as
okay.
well. Let me show you what that would do. You go down to some of the smallest stems. You always want to take the smallest stems because these larger ones are a little healthier and they're going to perform better in the long run. So you're going to want to go just beneath that soil and cut that stem off and just take it on out of here. The one thing I will say is that's nice about yanking it out of the soil like this very gently, do so gently, is you get a little tap root. So if you wanted, you could take this and put it in another pot and have more plants growing around your yard. So that's just an idea.
Ooh, I like that.
But I would just continue doing this until it gets down to about 3 or 4, possibly 5, but I would recommend 3 or 4 little seedlings in each pot. And that's pretty much the process. The leaves kind of start to wobble back and forth, but don't worry guys, these stems will become super strong. Just kind of prop them back up, put the soil back over those base roots, and that's going to continue to grow very beautifully. So
love that.
Yeah.
Now, is there oh gosh, I'm like, what was I? I was about to ask something and I was waiting for you to finish. I can't remember. And then I was like listening to what you were saying because it was so good. So so it's going to get stronger. Now, I was going to ask you about when you talked about the stem, because some of the plants, like Bok Choy is like that too. They have long stems, right, when you plant them. So got to plant them deep or,
exactly.
okay.
So like, for example, this Bok Choy right here, if we dig down beneath the soil, there's a little stem right here.
I think I got it. Yep, I can see it.
Right there.
Yeah.
So when we initially send our little teeny tiny seedlings to our customers, you're actually going to visibly see that stem. And that little stem before where the growth starts to emerge and open up, you want that to actually be underneath the soil. So this whole stem here, when we first got it, was planted underneath the soil, and now right where all the growth is emerging and opening up sits right on top of the soil. That's where you're going to get the best performance. And,
so really supporting it. Really cool. And then the other one is a kill. Kill is like that as well because the leaves are so big. Now, one thing I wanted to show, I always have to, I feel like I'm always walking around, but I did want to show on the planted wall over here, because I want to show like how these stems, like how they just get big, like these leaves are, this is such a crazy kill. It's like it's been growing forever. Look at that thing. But it tastes good, so I keep harvesting it. It just keeps growing.
And that dark color has so many I forget the name of it, but there's a lot of vitamins and nutrients in that dark purple color. So I would recommend getting those if you have not a strong immune system.
Well, and I will say that I'm so glad you just said that, because here, we'll switch over here. I'm gonna grab it to you now. So I will say, like, that's something we learned yesterday, and I did not know this in the cooking class. And this is what I love about our cooking classes, is she's always giving us nutrients and advice on like immunity and just kind of almost medicinal food kind of information. And parsley, most of the nutrients in parsley is in the stem. I did not know that. So I should say most of it, but a lot of it is. So I used to grab, I'd grab it, and then I would take off the leaves and chop them up. and I would discard this, compost this, right? And I was like, wait, what am I doing? So now advice, chop up your parsley stems too, because there's so much nutrients.
And then you get a crunchy bit of tastiness in there, right? You could throw it into stir fries and other stuff. Not all of this has to be used for a salad. It can be cooked as well. So
exactly,
just some different ideas.
Especially like bok choy.
Yeah,
bok choy is a good.
Like, look at this thick stem that probably is just loaded with nutrients for our customers right there.
Because this is an example, guys. Here's an example. This is a grow pot, and it's in the wall.
Yeah.
So this is an example of like, if as you want to grow up into the wall, you can put that in there.
Exactly.
I've got another one. I don't know where it went. Another one in here, because what I'm doing is I'm slowly swapping them out.
Yeah.
Let's show this bok choy, because this thing, something's eating it. So this one is an example of one that I don't harvest that much, because look at these leaves. Okay, look at this leaf. This leaf is so big.
It's so giant. This one down here is even bigger.
Yeah, that one. And you know what's funny? What is so great about this is when I do harvest it, like in terms of stir fry, like I only need to harvest like one leaf. Like if I'm doing a salad, I only need one leaf of those bok choys, because I just kind of break it up, and it produces so much foliage because it's so big. But yeah, this is probably, I was going to ask you, bok choy, a lot of times slugs like bok choy.
Yeah.
This is most likely a bird is kind of gnawing on the edges here of this. That's probably what's going on most likely. But if you slug damage, this doesn't really to me look like slug damage, to be honest.
No, what I honestly think it is because I noticed we planted this just as the last few caterpillar moths were flying around. Those last bit, like I think about a month ago or so, this was probably planted. So I honestly think this is the tail end and the last bit of caterpillar damage that you're going to see for the season, and I might have to go through and double check to make sure that the caterpillars
see how they're
in there.
There's no sign of a caterpillar.
There's no sign of a caterpillar, which is really interesting. Something that kind of tells me there might be is these little black droppings down in the center of the plant. But what I'm going to do is actually recommend putting Sluggo into the water basins, and maybe even in the actual lip of the plant here, just in case it is a slug. And then as the next couple days go on, just try to find that caterpillar and cut it in half.
I tend to throw it. Mallory likes to cut them in half. I throw them because there's a creek back here, and I just throw it in the creek. I'm like, I don't want to see that thing. So, okay, very good. So I think let's talk a little bit about pest, and I'm going to take over again. I'm going to show it over to you now, because we have, sorry, we'll walk up here, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, because we actually have set aside some organic things that we want to show you guys, because these are just, when you go into the cooler season, you're going to kind of start seeing potentially different things. So, okay.
So in this cool season, you're going to see slugs. Let's start out with that. So Sluggo, which we send to all of our farm wall customers, not yet to our planted box customers. So if you already are seeing the issue, I'd recommend going and grabbing some. Sluggo or Sluggo Plus is very important. You just put a little bit on the top of your pot, or you put it into your water basin, and this gets rid of a wide range of different things like earwigs and all kinds of nasty stuff, stales, all kinds of things. So this is really important to have on hand for any gardener, even for your regular landscape. Who likes to have slugs eaten on their pretty landscape, right? So this is important to have for any gardener. In the winter time, like we were talking about with the overwatering, if you're watering too much, or if there's lots of moisture in the air, you're going to experience something called powdery mildew, which you guys may not be able to identify now, but will help you guys out. It's basically like a white, powdery substance all over the foliage of the leaf. So that's why we recommend in the winter time, this is a concentrated bottle. They sell them in like little spray bottles like so, but this is a 3-in-1 concentrate, so it helps to get rid of insects, fungus, which is what powdery mildew is, and mites. So this gets rid of all the different things you could possibly be worrying about in the winter time regarding pests. Because in the winter time, you're not going to be dealing with much more than, say, an aphid, a slug, the last little bit of caterpillars, things like that. So This is something that's really important to have on hand. Look for Safer Soap 3-in-1.
And yeah, and I just also want everybody to know that this is all organic.
Yes,
Okay,
all
really, really important. So you can eat the food even when you're using this. And, you know, obviously you want to wash it off. And I noticed there was one comment where people were asking about, okay, so if I do see like an aphid or something on it, can I eat it? You know, absolutely. Like you obviously want to wash that off really well.
Right off, exactly.
Yeah, you want to wipe it off, you want to wash it off. But if the plant is in really good, the leaf is in really good shape, and there's just a little bit of, you know, you just see one on there, like it's not gonna kill you.
Chop off
Yeah.
that little section and
Yeah,
it makes
yeah.
you feel a little bit better. But even if something's
Yeah.
been demolished by caterpillars and it has holes all over it, just make sure all the caterpillars are gone and all you're eating is a leaf with a bunch of holes in it. So.
And that explains why sometimes when you are in, I'm going to show the plants while we're talking here. That explains why sometimes when like you go to farmer's market and you see, you know, organic, you know, maybe some lettuce or something, then there's just lots of holes. That's what that is. That's caterpillar damage. Yeah, yeah.
It's so natural. We live amongst them, so we
Yes.
just have to be kind to them.
Exactly. And then I wanted to just show like this oregano. I think this is one. This is in a pot. This is one. I mean, this is in a pot that goes on the wall. This is one that's in here. You know, more of the planted box pot. This one's very happy. I'm just like what it looks. Everything's looking really good. On this one, we were noticing like some of this black. Sorry, my hands are in the way there.
It's burnt.
Yeah, some of those
edges
burnt.
right here.
Yeah, and that's
Exactly.
sign of overwatering.
Most likely
Yeah.
overwatering. It's basically, if it stays too wet, the cells are just retaining so much moisture and it doesn't know what to do with it, so they kind of just shrivel up and they're
Yeah. Yep.
donezo.
Exactly.
So we're going to cut back on the watering, maybe trim away some of these dud leaves, and I think it's actually going to grow back even stronger than it was before. So mistakes sometimes are helpful for the plants.
Exactly. Absolutely. Here you go. I'm going to hand it back to you. And I think we have gone on for a long time. So I think we're going to close up. And I know that I just was going to say, so this month, you know, you got lemon balm. If you're planted box, you got mint and you got viola. And I wanted to let people know the reason why we are giving probably a little bit more herbs this time of year than you normally would be getting is, you know, herbs tend to, we tend to grow those in kind of in 4-inch containers and send those to you. And so because things grow slower in the winter, we want to give you things that are starting out a little bigger, because if we're sending you a small little seedling, it's going to take a little longer to get going, and we want to try to help that. We got to move along nature a little bit here. So that's one thing. But no, next month we're going to start, we're going to be bringing in some winter leafy greens into the mix as well. So that will be good and it'll be fun. And as we start moving into the spring, you're going to start getting a lot of stuff like you see here. So we didn't have too many questions about microgreens. I hope you guys all have planted them. Just know I did get one question about seeds. Know that they are seeds, so you don't have to plant them right away. Like it's not like it's a living thing. Seeds, you store them in a cool, kind of dark place, and you know, up to a year. So you know, if you're not going to do it right away, we're going to be sending you them constantly. So you want to get your microgreens in you. They're extremely healthy. And I just did want to show, this is when I had some microgreens growing. They were done harvesting, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this top layer of soil where you can see where the dried up greens are that I didn't end up harvesting. And I'm just going to take that. I'm going to take off that top layer. And what I'm going to do is mix it up and put it in one of the other pots, because all of that is amazing organic material, which you want to have in there. So you do not want to get rid of that. But then fold down this lip and start a new layer of microgreens is what I'm going to do. We have here. Are these radish?
Yeah, I believe so, actually.
Okay. Yeah, these are radish ones that were just.
Or you know what? They're mustard mizunas, is what they are.
Yummy. Okay, do I have Mizuna out here? No, I don't, but I do have mustard. Okay, so this has been soaking just like overnight?
Yeah, I just put them in there last night, and if you look closely, some of these little boogers are actually starting to open up and sprout. So like the white bits in them, these originally were just all brown, and they are sprouting, so they need to be put in soil as soon as possible.
As soon as possible, exactly. So that is really good. So what we would do here is we would get this soil wet, and we would spread this out on top.
Just pour it over the top and just like spread it out over the top, just like you said.
And then the really important, then what helps with that then is then you get a wet paper towel and you put it on top. And then literally what I do is I just put that in a dark place. You can put it in a closet, but I just put it aside for 2 days. And then you look and you can see, and once you see little, you know, kind of the sprouting little green little leaves coming up, and they're not green yet because they don't have light, right? They're white. And then you go, okay, I can take it out. And then you take it out and you put it in light. So, and then at that point you're misting it, and you're not, you have to be careful. This is something a little, no one's talked about this. I've noticed it in the test garden. You do not want to overwater. When the microgreens and their seeds coming up, you're misting it. You know, you're barely watering it, because you got to realize this felt pot, and it's pretty dense in there. It keeps it really moist, especially if you're growing them inside. So you don't want to overwater, because you might get you know, traces of mold on there. And then like that happened in the test garden, and I just stopped really. I'm like, oh, I gotta hold off on the watering, and then that was fine. And I just picked off part of the mold, and then everything was fine.
Yeah, we rinsed it off, and we ended up eating all of it.
Yes,
So there's
yes,
that.
Yeah, exactly. So it was fine, but very good. Well, you guys, thank you so much for watching. And if you're watching the replay, we hope this was helpful. Please post questions that you might have, any comments, anything that wasn't clear, anything that you wish that we would have covered and we didn't cover. But thank you so much. And oh my gosh, the sun's coming out. I thought it was going to rain on us. So please also take a look at the cooking class. We actually have some fun things because we've opened up our cart for the holiday. We're closing it on December 17th at midnight, and we have special member discounts for you guys. We're going to be sending out an email, so you'll see that, but we have our planted wall on sale. We never do this. It is $250 off the one side and $200 off the double-sided wall. So it's an amazing deal right now. And so if that's something that you want to go ahead and grow up into, or if you want to gift that to someone, we also have our planted gift, which is a planted box 4 times a year. And in there, we're going to give them what seasonally they would be growing that type of year, and then 3 months later we would send them another box. And that is, we price that under $200, so that it's a nice substantial gift where it lasts all year, and really giving people the experience.
Keeps giving all year long is what that one is.
And let's not forget, guys, it's also they get access to the cooking classes and things as well. So what a great gift. I'm actually going to give one to my mom. So very good. Thanks so much, you guys, and everybody have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.